I believe in the law.
So you're a law and order guy?
Well, I mean, yeah. If we don't have rules, what you got? Chaos.
I have to ask, Donald Trump was just found guilty of fraud, $385 million.
So?
Law and order.
I'm not electing a priest.
I know, but does that bother you that he was found guilty of that, being a law and order person?
Well, compared to what?
I'm saying he did a thing that was very illegal. He owes hundreds of millions of dollars. You're a law and order guy. Does that bother you?
Well,
This is the moment he realizes that his argument doesn't make any damn sense.
I mean, is he the only one that's ever did that?
I didn't say he's the only one who ever did that.
Okay, I know that. That's a loaded question.
Well, it seems A to B. If you really value law and order, but Trump is guilty of crimes, does it bother you that Trump, your guy, did a fraud that is costing him nearly $400 million?
Well, it bothers me, but it ain't going to deter my vote, sir. I still vote for him. If he had 21 million felonies, I'm voting for him.
So what you're saying is that you're a law and order SVU guy and not a law and order criminal intent guy. There's a reason Donald Trump isn't fighting over the evidence of the case and is choosing to whine and complain about having to follow the law because his supporters don't care about the law. Oh, and he can't stay awake long enough to even hear the evidence.
If I can, Lisa, your observations on Donald Trump today.
Sleeping. Again, they have tried a number of different devices. Yeah, sleeping for a lot of it. I would say they've tried a number of different devices to keep Trump awake, partially in response, or what appears to be in response to collective press corps observations. So, for example, when there are sidebars, an attorney doesn't leave his side anymore because leaving him alone means leaving him to potentially sleep. He has a stack of papers with him at all times now to go through. But neither of those things seem to have protected Trump from his own exhaustion today. More than not, when I looked up to see how Trump was receiving the testimony, Trump was not receiving it at all because his eyes were closed.
They've tried nudging him, pinching him, bringing in a couple of Big Macs so that the smell keeps him alert. But all he can dream about is what he'll cry to reporters outside of court over.
You have a judge who's totally conflicted, totally, absolutely conflicted, that he's rushing this case through. I'll tell you what, somebody just told me they've never sat for such a long period of time in a courthouse before. It's ridiculous. I'm supposed to be in Georgia. I'm supposed to be in New Hampshire. I'm supposed to be in Ohio and lots of other places.
He must have been too deep in sleep to think this one through. Because one second he said the judge is rushing this case, and the very next he's like, someone told me that they've never seen anyone sit in a courtroom for this long. Well, which one is it, bro? Trump wants the case to be delayed so that fewer people fully know what he's done and so that he can dismiss everything as emperor if he wins the election. But since it's moving, evidence is being revealed and he's one step closer to losing. So he's got to cry about any and everything for some MAGA sympathy. This is their strong leader that'll have foreign adversaries shaking. It's like they're admitting that their only option is to run to cameras to spin. That's why constantly violating the gag order is worth it to him.
Yeah, look, this gag order imposed by Judge Merchan in this case is wildly unconstitutional. It's deeply violative of President Trump's First Amendment rights. It constitutes an unconstitutional prior restraint. It relies on an unconstitutional heckler's veto theory. All of this really is rooted in a conspiracy to interfere with the 2024 election.
The president is trying to speak for himself and is frustrated because the gag order, I would have you remind the American people, is not just for the president. It was for the president and anybody in his control, campaign, anybody else. How are you supposed to operate? I don't know how he can stand it, to be honest. It's hard for me to stand it as his attorney.
Ironically, tons of people that go through the criminal justice system can't stand how much it affects their lives and desire to intimidate and threaten judges, juries, and prosecutors. Most of the time, we call those folks desperate, guilty, and in violation of the greatest judicial system in the world. And in fact, a big sticking point for Alina Habba was that the gag order covers Trump and anyone in his control, the campaign, his attorneys. They're under the gun to be aggressive ass, and the Sleepy King isn't happy with one of them. He's griped that Mr. Blanche, a former federal prosecutor and veteran litigator, has not been following his instructions closely and has been insufficiently aggressive. Mr. Trump wants him to attack witnesses, attack what the former president sees as a hostile jury pool, and attack the judge, Juan Merchan. Mr. Trump, who often complains about legal fees and sometimes refuses to pay them, has also wondered aloud why his lawyers cost so much, according to the people who all spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss the sensitive topic. So unsurprisingly, that's why Alina Habba berates reporters with Trump-approved anger nearly every day. And it might be making people believe that they're leaving holding another L. It's just so much crying, bro.
The facts are on our side. The issue we have is when we have politicized judges and blue juries come in and they're supposed to be impartial, but you have a judge tweaking, reprimanding, putting down counsel on the other side, being harder on one side than the other. That affects the jury, and that's not fair. It's not right. Now, if President Trump was given a fair jury, a fair trial, like anybody else in this country would be, because his name is Trump, he doesn't. That's where my concern is.